Isn't that remarkable technology? Let's see. Linz, would you mind closing the doors? Just so people can talk. I'll be back in a minute. I've got the agenda in my office. Okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. So I was going to introduce Tanya. Tanya is our church moderator, which is usually a one-year term, but this is her second year. And so she is another one of our board members that stayed on an additional year due to us not being able to gather last year to vote in new board members or a new budget. So, Tanya, do you want to say hey?
Hello, I'm Tanya. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming. I know this is exciting. I know you missed it last year. So here we are, back.
Yeah, and so this is just kind of the nature of a congregational style church, that how we are governed is once a year we gather together and we present new board members, and we also present a budget and any other changes or adjustments that we need to do. So you are served by 9 regular board members and 1 moderator. The moderator is a 1-year term, and they are just a general, they don't have any special powers, but they also help with this meeting. That's their purpose, and they also have a vote on the board as well. And I'm also a member of the board as well. So if you are currently serving on the board or you're exiting the board, could you please stand? We got John, Ken, Tanya, Sherry. Cool. Thank you, guys. Let's give them a round of applause. And so a few people that you've probably seen around. There's Doug Kaman. Megan Colkind is our board chair. She's down in this. She saw George Strait last night, and so she's down in the cities for that concert. So there's a few others as well, but they've done a heck of a job from Zoom meetings to in-person meetings to yelling at each other from across the room meetings to kind of all over the place. So do you want to speak into that at all?
Yeah, I can. So this year, 2 years ago, I don't know. Oof. It started out Zoom meetings. I feel like I'm really yelling.
You're fine. It sounds louder than it is.
And so we did those monthly, and then there were a few extra ones in there as well, I believe. And then we finally got to come back in person, and luckily we have a nice new addition back here with a bigger room so we could all space out. And then, yeah, so now we're back in-person meetings, and that makes it much more bearable. As I'm sure you all know, Zoom meetings are not awesome.
Yeah, Zoom meetings are terrible. So, so basically, the way that this goes is generally people always just ask the question, how are we doing? You know, and we as a church are very transparent financially and all the other documentation-wise, but usually when people are, you know, in attendance of meetings like this, it's kind of the question of how's it going? You know, how are we doing financially? How are we doing numerically and spiritually and that? So this is basically kind of a status report. So, you know, Tanya, do you want to speak into kind of how we're doing?
We are very blessed. We have been very blessed through this entire pandemic. Thanks to all of you and your generosity through this last couple years, we have been able to kind of stay the course. We're doing very well. We at one point the board did talk about like what are we going to do if funds go down, you know, et cetera, and thankfully none of that happened. And so here we are, doing well.
Yeah, and so in 2020, we made our budget that we had put out in 2019. So kind of not knowing what was forthcoming, we made that budget. And because we didn't have a meeting last year, we held that budget for the same budget for an additional year. We changed a lot of some of the line items, you know, that because online and all that kind of other stuff, we stayed at that same number budgetarily for 2021. And unless the roof caves in at this point, we will be making the 2021 budget as well, which is a pretty remarkable thing to have done. And so through COVID, we never laid anybody off. You know, we never had to ask any staff to not take pay, and it's just a remarkable thing. So I just wanted to first off just say thank you. It was a pretty sketchy time for everybody, and for the church that wasn't meeting. And you know, we were very well positioned going into that, where a lot of other churches may not have been. Most of our donations at this point come in online anyways. You know, I think we might process 10 to 12 checks a week at this point. We no longer pass a plate. You know, there's things that we were very well positioned that way. We didn't have to teach an entire church how to give online. 80% of what we were doing was coming in online anyway. So it was a well established for that. So we're going to do a couple of different things today. First of which is a bylaw change. And so Blakey, would you put up on the screen? My daughter's running the slideshow. Justin's back in there too. The bylaw change. There we go. So one of the things that COVID exposed was the way that we elect new board members was pretty outdated. And what we were doing is we were presenting to the church during church services names of members. And we were asking guests, visitors, and people to play the random name circle game. And those people would then join with the exiting board members to select the nominees for the next board. And that's great if you're a church of 50 and you know everybody. But now is totally not fair to say, hey, pick out 3 people that you think would be great to pick out the next board. It was just kind of weird. We knew it was weird. We just kind of dealt with it, and COVID kind of went, hey, you got to deal with this because this isn't right. So this bylaw change reflects that we're going to be removing that random name thing, and we're going to ask the board to select the next board. So we're going to ask the board at a meeting in October or November to select the next board and then present those nominees to you. So you're not without representation. It's just how we get those names is going to come from the board rather than coming from the random people that you're going to select. And so that's what's taken out. There's a strike through, and then there is an addition. So the strike through is what's leaving, and the addition is what's coming in. Any questions on that? We need to go to the mic because we are streaming. So if that's on, let's see if hit the red mic button there.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Just a quick notice there that treasurer's not listed on the revision.
Correct. Yes, the treasurer position is an artifact of. We eliminated the treasurer position 5 years ago, and we keep finding it. And so in church constitution, it's so we found it here and got rid of it. But yeah, we eliminated the treasurer. Now we have a hired accountant, not the church treasurer that sits behind that counts the money after the service, like an older church or a smaller church. I mean, any other questions on the bylaw change? Tanya, you got anything?
Okay, I don't have anything. Like Tom said, it worked out fine when we were, one service, maybe 2 services, and everybody kind of knew each other. But that just isn't the case anymore. We're just growing, which is great. It's not a complaint or anything. It's just a change because it doesn't work. So, right. And that's on that little yellow sheet, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
Yeah. And so that is a part of the. I thought I had it. Thought I grabbed a copy. Sure. No, I got it. Oh, okay. Never mind. Yeah, and so that is a part of the when we're voting in the budget as well. It's yes, I approve of the bylaw amendments. No, I don't approve. And then the state of Minnesota requires us to record if you are a member of the church or not upon that vote. So we want all the votes, but they make us record that. So that's kind of the simplest way of going about it. And yeah, we keep finding treasure. It's just peeling back an onion of an old church constitution. Yeah, I know. Yep, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, so no, not hearing any other questions on that. Oh, and when we do vote, you can put them in any of the donation bins, or you can put them in the clear bins, the clear bin as you exit the church today. So the budget that you have in front of you, Blakey, you can go to the budget, honey, is. Yeah, there we go. We have on the left-hand side is income, and everything from operations over is expenses. And so we are putting out a budget of a general fund of $450,000, building rental, which would include the Secret Forest Play School, and then other random things that we do during the year, weddings, Head Start. There's a 5 a.m. Fit for Mom class in here that nobody knows about, but yeah, it's they're in and out, and we don't even see them. But 5 a.m. You man, and being a mom. Programming is if we do vacation Bible schools or anything that might absorb cash in. It's just kind of a placeholder. And then fundraisers, it's also another placeholder. And so those are the income spots. You want to go over expenses?
That makes sense? Okay. Yep.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. Okay, so mortgage is pretty obvious. Same thing with gas and electricity. Do you want me to go line by line?
No,
Okay,
no.
because
it's
we'll
just
be here till Christmas.
So let's go over like piles and bills.
Okay.
So remember when we were talking the other day?
Yep.
Okay. No. So on a church budget, you have bills. Like we know the mortgage is this. Then we have piles. We're guessing snow plowing is this. That doesn't mean it's going to be this, and if we go over, I have to come back to you. It means things happen. So some things are bills, some things are piles. Whatever is a bill we like because we know, then we can. That's easier to budget. It's a fixed cost, right? And then there's a pile, which is, women's ministry is $5,000, but if they go over that, it's okay. We just have to find it somewhere else, and that's easier to do at the end of the year than it is at the start.
Does that make sense? Good job.
No problem.
Any questions on any of that?
Most of operations is a bill.
Yeah.
Most of programming is a pile. Mission and outreach is a pile. Salaries are bills. Benefits outside of medical insurance, because we never know, because we do this budget in October, is usually a bill. It's fairly accurate. We take 3 to 5 years worth of historical data to create this budget. So we're pretty confident on this outside of general fund income, and that's up to the church family. So we present an income of around $485,000, an expense line of $481,000 with the profit and loss of $4,000. Who knows? It's kind of dartboard material at that point. Last year, as an example, we hit budget, and I was fairly excited about this because I'm anal, by $100. And so we were 0.1% correct, which was pretty exciting to be at. And so far for this year, that is reflecting the same. Any questions on our proposed 2022 budget? Jeff said he has, yeah.
Maybe it's just the way I'm looking at the columns, but it looks like Lindsay just takes twice as much as you.
Right. So church salaries we don't list, and they are the board years ago. We used to publish that to the entire. Now that everything's online, and we just published the total. So you're welcome. I think you were on that board when we did that, Jeff. So. Yes, Miss Gail, can you use the mic because we are streaming?
Can I bring the mic over?
Yeah.
Is it wired?
Yeah, it's wireless. It's fine. Just because if people don't hear the back and forth.
So the total for the mission fund, is that something we absolutely know what that is because we were already committed to our mission?
No, we have not committed that. So usually there are missions we support, missionaries we support. There also will be random events that we do that will donate towards, like Safe Haven or things like that. I think the only thing we're committed to for 2022, everything got weird in 21, is Chum. And then another missionary that we support in the Navigator ministry at UMD. But outside of that, it's the mission fund is just kind of a pile. Yep, go ahead, Denton.
It's not part of your budget, but just a curious thing. It's kind of nice sometimes with churches to see like what their mortgage is and watch it go down every year.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Might be just something worth putting on.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, we do have an ongoing mortgage that will forever be there, hopefully going down. We refied right before the pandemic, so it was a nice timing. Any other budgetary questions? We run really lean, just to give you a sense. We have 2 full-time staff, and everybody else is part-time or on contract. So what you see, Justin and I are the only 2 full-time staff members here, and there's not a lot of fat on the bone for seeing. And we don't have a random fund of cash just laying around just in case. We try to keep about a month's worth of expenses in our checking account, but we feel like if you give us donations, you want that to be used in the ministry. I don't think you want us to have it sit in a savings account.
Yeah, we're not like, stick it in a drawer somewhere and wait for something terrible to happen kind of thing. So there's some sitting there for water damages.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, we're, giving back. That's kind of the point, so. And then, yeah, just remember, give.eccduluth.com is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we are noticing is, and I'm sure this is every industry across the world, staffing costs continue to rise. And that is just the nature of what we are dealing with. Inflation is beginning to hit us as well. So when people a couple years ago said, yeah, I'll give $100 a month to the church, that's awesome. But $100 5 years ago is not $100 now. And so if you are at any point doing great and can increase your giving, it just doesn't go as far as it used to. And that's the nature of, if you've been to the grocery store recently, you're seeing that as well. And that hits the church. That hits the church as well. When we have people on our staff that could legitimately go make more at McDonald's right now, but they're doing it for Jesus, which is awesome. But there it is. It's kind of that. It's way better to retain people than it is to try to find people in this environment. So if you can at all consider your giving level for next year, we would really appreciate that. We don't ask for pledges. We don't send out invoices. And so it's just kind of here's what we think, and it's all kind of a best guess, and we adjust accordingly. So on your ballots there, the yellow one, you'll have, here's the recommendation from the church board, and you can vote yes, vote no, and then again, I'm a member, I'm not a member, and we can kind of take it from there. That's the bylaw ballot.
Yep. Yellow sheet.
Yellow sheet.
Yellow sheet.
Yellow sheet.
Any other questions on that? Very good. Very good.
The next item in front of you is the board member ballot, and so we have the annual election for new board members, and so these people have already agreed to serve, and so starting next year in 2022, Daisy Cartier will be taking over as moderator from Tanya, so Tanya will be exiting the board. So because of people staying on, we have to do 2 different waves, so we're not doing another 7 board members in a couple years. So we have 3 people that are going to be 2-year terms, and then we have 3 people that are the regular terms. So that then we're back on the right schedule of only replacing 3 every year. We were going to have to eat it this year because of what happened last. So the 2-year terms coming up will be Joan Childs. So Joan, I think I saw you in the room. You want to wave? Joan's back there. Allie Halverson will be hopping on the board as well, and Mark Kliegel will be on as a 2-year board member. And then 3-year members will be Bailey Blackwell, and then Tom Little and Nate Redouche will be joining the board on a 3-year term. So that gets us back on the regular schedule. So anybody want to say bad things about Joan while she's in the room? Bring it on. So these are basically your elected representatives that serve on the church leadership council.
Were these, under the old nominating way or the new nominating way?
These were done under the new nominating way. Yeah, we kind of had to, we didn't know, so.
Yeah. Well, we kind of had to move along here, and we weren't, you never know, like week to week, are we going to be able to do this or not? Or so we, as a board, we kind of just, we got to move along.
Yeah,
So,
there were some places last year where we flexed the bylaws a little bit because we couldn't get everybody in the room. And so we just kind of had to hope for forgiveness, and
Yeah.
there was no pandemic clause in the bylaws on what happens when you can't meet
Yeah.
out of safety.
So please forgive us. We did our best. Any questions on that? Does it make sense? Okay, so let's just check yes or no, member not. Same as the other one.
This one's easy. Yep. Yes, no, member, no. Yes or no. So we're keeping this meeting as simple as possible. I basically delivered the usual kind of vision conversation that we had all across all 3 services, and then we'll continue to do the same next weekend. This is, it's a really good report. The church is doing great, and we are growing, and we're going to need to kind of continue to lean into that and to reach into. I mean, just as an example, if you've driven by here on a Wednesday night, you can kind of get a sense of what's happening here. So we have a youth ministry occurring on Wednesday nights. We have a care ministry occurring on Wednesday nights. We have the women's Bible study, which has 55 people signed up for it. Fearless Mom this past Friday had 32 moms and 28 kids in this building. We've had to hire nursery staff just to absorb that, which is fantastic. We were 4 families, I think, in the past 2 weekends that have never been to our church that came to a Sunday service because of the Fearless Moms ministry. The men's ministry, we got, 12, 14 guys on Tuesday nights that come in and help do that as well. So we're hitting it, and we're going to continue to hit the gas as we go into 21. Because it is not normal what is occurring here. So thank you. And thank you for your continued generosity. Thank you for your willingness to be flexible with us. That was, I think, kind of what set us apart over the year, was that flexibility.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that it was really helpful to have Tom's leadership and just, hey, we're going to do this online. Kind of winged it for a minute there, but it looked great. No complaints.
Thank you.
And then as soon as we could all come back, kind of figuring out how that looks and what that is going to do. And then we've just continued to grow. And so thank you for inviting your friends and coworkers and whoever else you know.
Yeah, basically it was pack light, move quick, reach as many people for Christ as possible. And that was kind of the nature of the year, and 2 years. And so because of that, I had a local mainline church call me 3 weeks ago and asking me, how do we go online? So that is scary. And it is reflective of what's going to happen. And so continue to pray for some local churches, continue to pray for us, continue to give and donate. Check your levels if you can. If not, just keep going. We love it. We're running a very efficient staff, and we just really appreciate your Faithfulness. There was no class in seminary on how to lead pastor a church through a pandemic. And hopefully we made some mistakes along the way, but hopefully we did as well as we possibly could have. And that's because of you guys. So any other questions that we have from the floor for posterity? Warren, let's take the mic to Warren. No, we have to because of the stream.
We're going to make you.
Has there been any steps, as I'm looking at the electric bill and the gas bill, has there been any look into possibly lowering them? Because that's like almost 8% of the budget. You know, if you could save 10% of that 8%, that's quite a chunk that could go somewhere else.
Yes, so everything in this building outside of these things are all LED now. These things are eventually the bulbs cost more than it's worth so far. The addition of the new building did raise some of that. And the natural gas that's going up if you haven't noticed that yet. And so that's a guess, but it's an educated guess. But it's a both and because of how much more we're using this building. It's great, but it also has expenses with it as well. Where we used to be able to knock it down after youth group, knock it down, and then Sunday morning it would go back up. We can't do that anymore. So this building is heated and cooled pretty much every day of the week, which is great, but it's also an expense as well. This building's very efficient. Every room is floor heat, and then we just supplement with the furnaces and the air conditioning. And then on some Sundays, the air conditioning turns on because there's so many people in here, because everybody's 5,000 BTUs. So, but where we could, everything's LED, and then everything is about as efficient as we can until these things. And because see, there's always one that's out, and we just chase it. So once that happens, where the bulbs aren't expensive, because these dim, we'll get those as well, and we'll do them all at once. But Jana, you got one, or you just go in the bathroom?
I just want to say how grateful I am to be part of a truly unique church. Pat and I were talking about this, and I said, weird, and she says, probably not the right word. I put both parents into a nursing home over the past couple of years, not due to COVID, but didn't help. And I sat behind Sherry at service, and the end of service, she's scrolling through her phone. There's an entire segment of the population that's never going to be able to go forward, like you said. They belong to a large Methodist church, mostly gray-haired people. Those people are never going to go online, ever. My dad can't find the on button on his Samsung tablet anymore. He used to be able to, but it's gone. And we have a care ministry, and Pat says, we're an unusual congregation in that most of our gray hairs, they're here. They're here. They're engaged. They're involved. They're reached. We don't have a lot of people that are shut-ins, but we need to look for them. I mean, I call the Methodist church that I grew up in, and I say, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? There's that whole segment that they're just not being reached, and they're not going to be reached except by people. And that's got to be contributing hugely to that closing of churches. they're also the people that support the church.
Yep.
Your biggest contributors are now sitting in nursing homes, and they're unreached. And the secretary says, well, the pastor goes in once a month and does a service for them. And that's not going to do it. So I just, pat ourselves on the back, yes, but, and part of our congregation is, we're all getting older, but our care ministry is great, and I'm just so grateful to be, through all the seasons of life, part of this church, because this church is here through all seasons of life, and we just got to stick with it and keep going and community and support each other. And even when we can't contribute, because I've been not able to do a thing except barely tie my shoelaces in the morning and get here. And I just want to thank you. Thank you. We're weird and we love it.
Anything else anybody wants to say? Outside of that, I'll pray for us, and we'll go on and shovel. God, we just thank you for the uniqueness of this congregation and this willingness to flex and do what is needed to do to reach those who don't know you yet. I thank you for the faithfulness of the donors. I thank you for the involvement of the members. And I thank you for the willingness for those who attend to just dive in. And God, may we just get out of the way. May we not be a barrier to what you are doing. And may we just be reflexive and responsive to reach a hurting community and to reach a city and a state and a nation that desperately needs your hope. I thank you for all who are in attendance, both in person and online, and just for their faithfulness and their willingness to serve. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Remember to put your ballots in. You can put them in any of the donation boxes or the clear plastic bin in the back. And we'll see you next year, God willing, and the creek don't rise.